Well, again, good morning, everybody. It's my great pleasure to have Tricia Yu here, and we're going to do a little interview conversation. And by way of introduction, I would just like to tell you a little bit of her bio. Tricia is an instructor in the Cheng Man Ch'ing lineage of Tai Chi Chuan, and she's the former director of the Tai Chi Center in Madison, Wisconsin, which was one of the oldest and largest schools in the United States. She's the founder of Tai Chi Health, whose mission is to make the many benefits of Tai Chi accessible to people of all ages, abilities, and physical conditions. She taught Tai Chi and Qigong full-time from 1972 to 2015. She's a pioneer in integrating Tai Chi into the medical model, exercise therapy, and has enjoyed collaborating with health professionals for 40 years. She's the co-creator of the Ram Dance program, which is a relaxation and pain management program, which integrates Tai Chi principles into a medical model, a range of motion exercise. In 1996, she created the original Tai Chi Fundamentals program, and it's a prequel to traditional Tai Chi that can be integrated into the medical model treatment. And in 2014, she created the Simplified Tai Chi Fundamentals Adapted program with optional side support, wheelchair support, and seated versions. And then from 2015 to 2019, she collaborated with the research team to develop the evidence-based Tai Chi Prime class series. She's a producer, director, composer, performer, and author of a number of books and DVDs. And her programs have been featured in numerous peer-reviewed journals and popular publications. She has presented at state, national, and international conferences for health professionals, including the American Physical Therapy Association, American College of Sports Medicine, and Armed Forces Public Health Conferences. She was an expert panel member for the NIH NCCAM-funded pilot clinical trial at Osher Research Center, Harvard Medical School. Wow, that's a lot. Well, for me, she was really instrumental in organizing the Ben Luo camps, the Midwest camps. And that's where I first met her in 1982. And it was an annual pilgrimage for me to head up to Mukwonago, Wisconsin on Memorial Day weekend to participate in Ben Luo's camps. And so I think that the first thing I'd like to ask Tricia is how you got into Tai Chi in the first place.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Am I on? Yes, okay, I'm unmuted. And just a little thing, Kim is one of my dearest friends, and I have always admired you so much, Kim. And we have done a lot of things together, and I just really am honored that you've asked me to come here. So I first learned Tai Chi in 1970 in Taiwan. I won't go into why I was living there and all that, but it was with a Taoist master, and I was the only non-Chinese student. I was fluent in Chinese by that time, and this teacher, Liu Peizhong, formed my entire approach to Tai Chi. We were required to meditate 40 minutes a day in addition to doing the Tai Chi, and the meditation was Dao Gong. Dao as in the Tao, and Gong, like Qigong, is skill. So there was a process in which to help attune ourselves with the larger universe as the main point and purpose of Tai Chi. And so that has been the centerpiece of my practice ever since. And once I came back to the United States and got to connect with the Cheng Man Ch'ing, many different Cheng Man Ch'ing lineage teachers, it works perfectly because Tai Chi is the supreme ultimate. It's the ridge post that connects the heavens and the earth. It's a process that helps us cultivate this heaven, earth, human, becoming a heaven, earth human, one that isn't just concerned with our, the illusion of our daily lives, but rather with the earth and the larger universe. So that's how I got started. And that's actually what has inspired me all these years. Thanks.
Yeah, well, that's the, how did you get actually involved, particularly with Ben Luo and those camps?
And okay, so as soon as I got back to Madison, Wisconsin, 1974, Fred Lehrman and Patrick Watson, of all things, came to my neighborhood to the community center a couple blocks from my house, and were introducing Cheng Man Ch'ing Tai Chi. And so from there, I got connected with Milwaukee, where they were also attempting and successfully got a Tai Chi school started there. And from that, got to learn from a bunch of other different of the lineage teachers like Ed Young and Tam Gibbs and Maggie Newman and many others. One of my students in 1979, that's Nellie Donovan, went to one of Ben Luo's La Honda camps, and she came back raving about Ben Luo. And so the next year, 1980, I went to La Honda, and I'm not sure if there I had mentioned to him, did he want to try to, come to the Midwest? But I have a letter that in which he's asking me to organize these camps. And so I did. And we were in McGuanago for those camps for many, many years. But that's how that got started. So I met Master Luo, Ben Luo, once I already had been teaching for over 7 years. So that affected our relationship. I already had a school, and I think he cut me a lot of slack. So
Did Ben know your teacher in Taiwan?
yes. And I have photos of Liu Peizhong with Cheng Man Ch'ing. And everybody had heard of my teacher in Taiwan. He was legendary.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember the first camps in McWanago at Phantom Lake. It was fairly rustic. We were in platform tents, and there was like one men's bathroom and one women's bathroom for everybody. Yeah.
Walk from the tents, Yes.
Yeah. And well, can we, if we could move on a little bit, could you talk to us a little bit about your creating your Tai Chi fundamentals program?
Okay. So the ROM dance that he mentioned, and by the way, if you want more information on these things, it's taichihealth.com, and there's drop-down menus on all of these different topics. Plus, I wanted to mention up in the right-hand corner a link to, I have a YouTube channel there where you can see all of these, various things. But I was influenced by creating the ROM dance with an occupational therapist in 1981. And that's how I got acquainted with occupational and physical therapists specifically, along with other allied health professionals. And I developed a tremendous admiration for them and the way that they worked, and just felt like a lot of what they do could be integrated into the teaching of Tai Chi, because so much of Tai Chi is you're supposed to follow the teacher, and you might have a very different body than the teacher and very different, abilities and structure. And I could see that they worked basically, the good ones, from your center. They would assess what you were physically, and then they would start simple and move to more complex movements, or that call it a developmental progression. And so once in 1996, when I began developing the fundamentals, and the reason I did was research had started coming out about Tai Chi, and it was all focused on the elderly. And suddenly classes which had had 20 and 30 and maybe 40-year-olds in them suddenly had a lot of older adults that were not really doing well with the Cheng Man Ch'ing form, and they were just keeping the class back. And so that's when I developed it. So I developed it using training tools. They're called basic moves, things you can do repetitively that aren't quite as challenging as a form. And then everything was in this simple to complex sequence. And by doing that, I was able to teach the energetics, which are so important, a lot of the mind-body integration skills. And of course, my favorite thing, the attunement with the larger universe. And so that's when it happened. And I taught it to students who came to the Tai Chi Center for a couple of years. And then once I felt like, okay, this is done, this is ready, this has been tried and tested and true, and adjusted, then I developed the videos and the book. And one of the main book that was developed then was with a physical therapist. And we had versions for physical therapists and instructors, and then versions for, people who wanted to practice.
So there, other people have developed like simplified programs. How is yours different than those? I think you mentioned a Paul Lamb program or that.
Yeah. The basic difference, the basic difference is the influence of healthcare professionals.
Oh, okay.
Is the simple to complex movements, and then the training movements, the basic moves, which instead of form is actually quite complex. Even a very simplified form is very complex. So it's much easier to do discrete practice, how to stand, how to bend your knees and keep your body upright, how to shift your weight, keeping your alignment, how to externally, how to turn one foot out and the other foot out without arching your back. All of those things can be taught outside of Tai Chi, and then they apply. And the other thing that we began doing was recommending that everybody that came into the Tai Chi Center would take the Tai Chi fundamentals first. And not everybody did. As a matter of fact, a few people did. But everybody that took it said that it helped their Cheng Man Ch'ing form so much. And many of those people, all these decades later, are still doing Tai Chi and have gotten into push hand. So the adapted program is a gateway program into our traditional form.
Yeah, and eventually you made a video of the traditional form as well. Just as a was that as a follow-up then for people who'd been through the simplified program first?
Well, I did it all at once. I got a videographer and we made all the videos at the same time. And I, with a little trepidation, but I have to say, I did not ask anybody's permission to make the videos. And I sent them to my main teachers at the time. It was Benjamin Luo, William C.C. Chun, who I studied with for decades, and Maggie Newman. And Maggie gave it an endorsement that she said, yes, you can use this in your promotional material. She was very supportive. William C.C. Chun does a different form, but he was very public in his endorsement of the fundamentals. And actually his endorsement is on the cover of the book, Tai Chi Mind and Body, which teaches that program and was in 12 languages through it's Penguin Publishing. And Ben was silent. And all Ben had to say about the Tai Chi fundamentals was, why didn't you do the first part of the form? And the first third.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the third of the form is very, very difficult to learn for older adults. It requires a whole lot of strength and flexibility. And I don't know if Pat is here, but Pat Colati, it was like Pat and Kim and I were kind of a little group that hung out together a lot. And Pat always was more comfortable with Ben in terms of influencing him than I was. I'm very traditional in terms of my interactions with my teachers. But anyway, after Ben had had his liver transplant, Pat brought it up again and he got it. He said, oh, I see now. I understand now that he was having to rehab a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's switch a little bit. I want you to say something about your the Tai Chi Center in Madison. I mean,
Oh,
since you have had that for so many years, and um, it was always incredible what a huge, wonderful school that was all those years. And I know for a while you did some summer classes outside. And I understand you have a couple of stories about those.
okay, I'll have to do those quickly. So the Tai Chi Center just happened. I was a school teacher actually, and I kept getting more and more and more students, and I felt, okay, this must be a calling, and I love to do it. So here we are. And I do want to mention that Doug Brown, I sold the Tai Chi Center to him in 2005, and it's still going strong. So, but in the summers, I love to be outside. I love to be in nature. I feel like being in nature is just the best thing that we can do. And so all of my classes for at least 25 years were out, all of them were outside in the summer. And, it was the hippie era. I got to Madison in 1974 and never again asked anybody's permission. And we just started doing Tai Chi in all these various parks throughout the summer. And well, here's the best story. You'll like this one. In 1977, this was when the bra burning was going on, and Madison's a very kind of radical liberal town. And so we were behind a church and then down so that you really couldn't be seen from the road, right on the Lake Monona. And it was very hot and the men had their shirts off. And so the women all took all their tops off. And so we just continued doing Tai Chi, bare-breasted, and very quietly, all the people that were in their boats fishing, there was not a sound, no cat calls, but there was this whole group of people that came quite close so they could get a good look. So that was fun. And then later, this was many years later in the 80s, I get used to teaching in the parks and I started to feel like the parks are mine. And I ended up teaching way too many classes in one park that was in front of some homes, and we were creating parking problems. And so they complained to the city, and the city came down, told me to come in, and they said, we know you've been doing this for 14 years and you're very quiet and so on. Why don't you just move somewhere else? Just go to another park. We don't mind if you do this. We don't have any category to put you in. So I did, but I lived on the Near East Side in Madison. I don't know if any Near East Siders are here, but this was kind of the centerpiece of the people that were very organized and political. And one of the organizers was outraged that I had gotten kicked out of the park. And so he organized a summer fest in that park in 1986, and it's still going on. And he put the sound stage right in front of these people's homes. Just that's my outdoor story.
Yeah. You also, I want to try to get, I know we're kind of jumping around a lot here, but I wanted to get a few things in. You, what is Tai Chi Prime?
Okay, Tai Chi Prime is an evidence-based program. There was a randomized controlled trial done on it, and it's using my Tai Chi Fundamentals adapted program. And I won't go into all the results and everything, and that also has a drop-down menu, but it got great results. Well, it got, in only 6 weeks, improved balance, cognition, strength, and mobility. And was very popular, and people were lining up. They had, like, in one place, they had 200 people wanting to take the next one. And so that's got a whole lot of support from a much larger, much larger organization. And I would like to say that the training for the instructors, you're certified in the adapted program, and it is a great way. The teacher training is excellent, and teaching these programs it's very, very structured. And it teaches everything: how to teach, how to lead a group discussion, and it focuses on home practice. It has a whole home practice component that was extremely effective. So that's that program, and that's the very most recent one.
Okay, Tai Chi Prime. I was curious, since you've interfaced a lot with medical community, how did you have to navigate at all the traditional Chinese ideas of qi and internal force with, ideas, the medical model?
What I felt, what I've over these years, is that in some case there's some conceptual differences, but there's also kind of a language difference in using Chinese terms, something, strange sounding words from another culture. And so I always emphasized also in the beginning classes, in those classes, and in the trainings for the health professionals, talking to them in language that they use. And for beginners, that you don't need to go into Qi the first week, or lower Dantian, or all of these other terms and energetic labels that we have. And so basically, that was never an issue.
Huh.
Just talk. I learned that. I had spoken some other languages and learned that everything's about being able to communicate in somebody's language with them in order to link with them and connect with them. And so the idea of qi, for example, we've started doing that more now, because that's becoming more part of the well-known vernacular. But even 25 years ago, it wasn't. But in the beginning, just notice. What do you feel? Don't tell people how to breathe and how to do things. Just introduce people in a very supportive way in noticing what's going on internally, because we're from a culture that has a mind-body split traditionally. As in Asia, yoga and Tai Chi are from cultures where there is no mind-body split. So, long answer to a short question, but no problem.
Yeah, okay. Well, and then I can't imagine that you tried to teach push hands in a simplified program, but did you bring in sort of basic principles or ideas from push hands in the simplified program, like yielding or listening or that sort of thing?
As far as we got, is very, very introductory push hands and very, very introductory applications, but not right in the beginning. wait a little bit until you've got your sea legs and you're beginning to get comfortable with this. And then we would do exercises like, exercises where you can push and you can yield, and exercises showing why your knees shouldn't go over the toe and that kind of thing. And then Pat, who is a tremendous advocate of push hands, she, in the trainings for the instructor, she always includes push hands instructions and informal push hands practice.
Yeah, okay. I think we're going to have a little bit of time. I want to save a little bit of time for people to ask questions if they have any. But before I do that, is there something you'd like that I haven't asked or that you'd like to say?
Okay, I read this. So this is the book. I think you can see it here. And this inspired me years ago. This is from, Cheng Man Ch'ing, the chapter he's talking about his hopes. And I just want to read this because this is him talking. My reason for advocating Tai Chi Chuan is to help people do good and to extend what one values oneself to others. In order to attain this objective, the primary requirement is to invest in loss from the beginning to the end. Would it not be a tremendous boon if any personal sacrifice could procure some universal benefit for all mankind? And so he had that vision. And how are you going to take this precious jewel to a larger audience? One of the things is to simplify it.
Yeah, well, and he originally did that, right? Yeah.
Yes, but he was doing it to young men at a military academy, and so
Right, exactly. Yeah.
it was still had a lot of the moves that required a lot of strength and flexibility and coordination. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So in that way, I felt, well, I'm just in the lineage here. He changed his teacher's form, and I am no master, but I took this to another more basic level.
Yeah. Did you want to do something out of the Wei Shiba book, or that was the one you wanted to?
No, I just wanted to share my favorite books. This is by the translation of the Tai Chi classics by Ben Luo. This is a very old version of it. And then
mine looks like that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tai Chi Chuan.
Yeah.
And then this, I'm not going to read from it, but this is absolutely one of my absolute favorite books, The Art of Peace. And this is by the founder of Aikido. And it's a little book with wonderful quotes. And so I would often read from these and other Tai Chi books in class.
Well, again, Tricia, thank you. You're an inspiration to me. And I hope everybody goes to your website and checks all of those things out, all the drop-down boxes. Okay, Tricia, do you have anything more you want to say before we sign off?
No, just thank you so much. And it's just great having this conversation with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, take care.